say bites, I mean, I'd be reeling that flat side by a stump, and they'd hit it so hard they'd knock it backwards. I mean, I don't know how I wasn't hooking those fish, but anyway, I left there basically empty-handed, went to my secondary area.
Well, hey guys, Michael and Dano here for the next episode. I think we're on number 4 now for the Bucks Island on Tour series. So little different week in that Dano was actually home, but we were still able to pull some info and get a little interview in. Before we jump into it, I do want to make sure that everybody's aware. If you go, whether you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, we've got a link that'll take you over to Shop Bucks Island, and a lot of the tackle and stuff that we're discussing on these episodes is all built into a collection to try and make it easy for you to find some of that stuff. So I appreciate it if you go check that out. All right, so what's been happening in the world of tournament fishing, Dana?
Well, obviously this is the big week with the Bassmaster Classic over here at Lake Hartwell. But last week we had 2 tour level events. We had the we'll start with the National Professional Fishing League there at Lake Cumberland. Really, really difficult event for those guys. Weather patterns kept them off the water for 2 days. The league had to felt like they had to cancel the tournament for the first 2 days. So it became a 1-day shootout, fruit jar derby for a $50,000 top prize and a bunch of $10,000 checks as well. But they had some debris and some really high water, a bunch of rain. Cumberland does that. It moves up and down real high. But the truth about bass fishing tournaments is someone's going to win it and someone's going to get on them. Watched a little bit of the live coverage that day. We have, our pro John Cox from Georgia. He fishes it. Our friend Justin Kimmel, also from Georgia, Bass University fame, he fishes it. So we're paying attention to what's going on over there. And that water came up 14 feet in a couple of days. So those guys started practice on one body of water and started a tournament 2 days later on a completely different one.
I wonder what a hammock in somebody's front yard looks like on LiveScope.
We get on the picnic table pattern. Maybe get on the doghouse pattern. That kind of thing might work too.
Yeah. The last thing about MPFL that I'll throw out there, if you're not following John Cox fishing, there was some entertaining as anglers will do when they don't get to go fishing and they're left with too much idle time. You're just going to I'm just going to leave it at that. Go check out, they had some fun, and it's cool to see those guys and the camaraderie amongst those anglers.
Well, yeah, that was definitely interesting. It was kind of fun. That's what it's all about. Anyway, expected to be a tough bite tournament. Here's another interesting thing about Cumberland. You've got an 18-inch limit on a smallmouth bass there, and there's a lot of smallmouth in the lake. And the amount of 17 and 3/4 inch smallmouth they get thrown back that are 3-pound fish, it gets pretty frustrating for the guys.
Yeah.
So there were an awful lot of fish caught, just an awful lot of one-fish bags. Taylor Watkins ended up stumbling into a spinnerbait bite on Bluff Walls, and he ended up winning 23-6 to win the tournament for a 5-fish limit. One of only a few 5-fish, looks like maybe 10 5-fish limits that were weighed in. And it got down to the point where basically if you caught a fish, you were probably going to get paid. Although it did trickle a little bit further past that. But the weights weren't big after him. There was a 15-2, Josh McDermott. Then they fell to 13, 12, 11. We talked about Justin Kimmel. I talked to him the other day, and at 2:00 he didn't have a keeper. At 3:00 he'd caught 8 fish. 2 of them were keeper smallmouth, and he weighed in 2 that finished in 24th place with 6.2. And he cashed himself a $9,000 check. And then, of course, John Cox, he was 4 places out of the money, 3 places out of the money, but he caught himself 2 for 311. We haven't caught up with John yet to know what he did, but man, to start a tournament like that and not be at a 0 for points is a big deal. And but there was, let's see, it was so tough that from 76 through 121st place blanked. So it was a tough tournament, but they get it done. Somebody's going to win. And it was a interesting start to the season. I'm sure it's not how the league or the anglers wanted to, but interesting start to the season.
Well, I think it definitely says something about the guys that are fishing that series that anybody was able to put something together with those conditions. So props to them, and looking forward to their next stop. So what else have we got?
Well, we also had a chance, Bass Pro Tour had another interesting event with a lake that typically is warm this time of the year that kind of went off the deep end on the temperature side. We were seeing ice on the boats and things like that. And but it ended up turning out to be a pretty good tournament there at Lake Fork. Alton Jones Jr. won it for his first major tour event. Anyway, Alton caught it. He ended up catching him, and we got the chance to talk to him, and it was a neat interview. His first tour level win. He comes from fishing royalty with his dad, Alton Sr. And this kid's, he's grown up in the sport, and he's won an Open before, but this is his first major tour win, and that was it was cool to see.
Yeah, it was a good discussion. So we'll roll that, and even a little thought on fishing against his dad. Pretty cool scenario. So I hope you guys get a little something out of this.
Well, everybody, we got a chance to catch up with the latest Bass Pro Tour champion, Major League Fishing pro, Alton Jones Jr. Alton, first of all, congratulations. That is a stout field that you pulled that victory out on. Of course, anytime you're on any one of those major tour levels, it's a stout field. But to be able to pull it out the way that you did, those were tough conditions, a lot of cold weather, not something you expect in Texas. I know it's not far from your home there in Waco, but first major tour win. I know you've won Opens in the past. 6th year on tour. Can't feel bad to have pulled one of these things out so early in your career. But congratulations, first of all, and then go into how you did this and how you were able to pull this out. And if you don't mind, kind of take us through your qualifying rounds, and then we'll go into your knockout rounds and then championship round as well.
Yeah. Thanks. Starting off in practice, I had pretty high hopes. People mistake a lot and think just because I'm from Texas, I'm good on Lake Fork. I have very little history there. People don't understand that Texas is a really big place. I live like 4 hours from.
Absolutely.
However, I do have a little bit of experience there, and I went in pre-practice, and I was really excited. Like, if you asked me the whole schedule, if I had to pick one that I would have a shot to win, I would have said that one. Now, I would never guess that right again if I tried, but it was one I felt good about, to say the least. Fast forward through practice, I was fairly disappointed. I had some really big bites, but I never found any groups of fish. I was one here, one there, and even though I might have a 30-pound bag during the day, fish are so random. I was pretty disappointed. The first kind of key to the puzzle.
In that format, if I can. In that format, 30-pound bag is great, but you can get run away from in a hurry because, maybe you got 5 or 6 fish worth 30 pounds, but you got somebody that ran away, and next thing they got 70 pounds for, 20 fish.
Yeah. In this format, you can't just poke around for a few bites. Every once in a while that'll work out in your favor, but you need to be pretty dialed. You need to be going somewhere and putting your bait somewhere when that tournament starts that you're going to get a bite. And, I got onto a big spinnerbait bite. I got onto a flat-sided crankbait bite in practice, but I really only had 2 fairly small areas that I was confident there were bass in. So the first one that I was most confident in was the back of Little Caney. Ended up being where I won the tournament. I started in there the first day. Had no idea that the fish to win were in there. The reason I started in there is because it's a community hole, and I'm thinking you've got a day, maybe 2 days of this being good. It's going to get beat up too bad, and then you'll never catch another bass back here the rest of the event. Well, I started in there. I fished the whole first period. I have like 8 or 9 bites, but I missed all but one of them, and the only one I caught was like a little 2-pounder. And when I say bites, I mean I'd be reeling that flat side by a stump, and they'd hit it so hard they'd knock it backwards. I mean, I don't know how I wasn't hooking those fish, but anyway, I left there basically empty-handed. Went to my secondary area. Got very fortunate. Caught a couple big fish. I had one almost 8 and one almost 9. And that kind of saved my day, saved my whole tournament right then and there. Day 2 rolls around. That's kind of our elimination day. Got to stay in the top 20.
So where were you after day 1 of the qualifying round? Where were you?
I believe I was in 12th. I had 5 for 28.15.
So you kind of followed your practice pattern.
Right. Yeah. It was just fairly random. Caught a couple big ones. I was around some fish. What I noticed is in this secondary area had some really key stumps in it, on these channel swings. And I'd fish through an area, get bit off these certain stumps. 2-3 hours later, fish back through that same area, get bit off those same key stumps again. And I ended up catching enough weight where I was comfortable. And, once you get above that threshold of what you think it's going to take to make the top 20, you can see Score Tracker. I kind of used that last little bit to go practicing, but there's one bite in particular that was really important that day. It was after I already had the cut made. There was one stump, and this is in my secondary area, mind you, where every time I went by it, I saw fish, would have fish follow my spinnerbait, follow my flat side, maybe even miss my flat side, but I never even hooked up with one of these fish. And I probably fished this stump 7 or 8 times over a 2-day period, never boated a bass off of it. And I told myself, how are you going to get one of these to bite? I mean, I couldn't get a bite, flipping, drop shot, and nothing. Well, I tie on a 2.5 size square bill, and I said, I'm just going to reel it by this stump as fast and as crazy as a wild man I can. First cast, I catch a 4-pound, 4-ounce bass. And I'm like, okay, there's something special about how that went down. I'd fished that stump too many times. And so clearly there was a reaction bite going on, reeling that square bill fast, sporadic, banging it off the wood. But then it kind of ran into another problem is my 2.5 was only going like 3 to 4 feet deep. Most of the stumps I was fishing, with the exception of that one stump where I caught a fish, was 6 to 7 feet deep. And I wasn't able to get bit off those other stumps, so that presented another problem. Fast forward to that night, I called Jordan Lee, and I said, hey, man, do you have a square bill that runs deeper than most? And he's like, how deep's deep? I said, at least 6 feet. And he said, yeah, I got one. Meet me in the ramp. I'll just open my box. You take whatever you want. And so he was kind enough to let me have it. And I grabbed 2 or 3 of them. Go back to Little Caney's to start the knockout round. I apologize if this is a long story here, but
no, we love it.
I go back to Little Caney to start the knockout round. I just knew in my secondary area there was no chance for me to make the championship round. It just weren't enough fish in the area. Little Caney, however, where I'd had those big number of bites the first day and didn't catch any, I was like, maybe there's a chance. That's all I thought. Maybe there's a chance. And sure enough, I started in there, and to my surprise, there was 2 or 3 other anglers in there in the knockout round from the other group. And I end up being like, when I say it's a small deal, it's a drain. It may be a big creek, but what we're fishing is a drain in the back of a flat. I mean, it's as wide as, a 2-lane highway, It's fairly narrow. And I end up fishing behind other anglers through there that day, and just got really dialed with live scope, how the fish were sitting. And I can remember I think it was the second fish I caught, reeling it by a stump. It was like my fourth cast by this particular stump on that time, because I could see the fish down there around the root system, even as shallow as it was, less than 5 feet. And that fish ate that little square bill so good. I mean, it's a 5-pounder to come up and jump. I couldn't even see the bait,
Yeah.
And when
That's
you're doing
kind of
that, it's just like, you're throwing the right thing,
Yep.
And things just started to click. I felt like fresh fish were pulling in there so knockout round day, we had freezing rain, brutal temperatures, one of the most miserable days I've spent on the water.
Yep.
We're in the back of this flat. Water temps are just, they're falling off a cliff, tanking. And these fish have nowhere else to go. Any of these fish that were up on the flat, on the stumps, up on, 2 feet of water, they have to pour into that ditch.
Yep.
And I could literally fish a channel swing, maybe catch one, whatever, turn around, fish that same channel swing 10 minutes later and catch 4 off of it. And it's not like there's a lot of stuff to fish. There's like 4 stumps,
Yep.
And so I think there were literally fish by the minute pouring into that channel. And just the stars lined up. I was blessed. I had the right bait, the right retrieve, the right electronics, and the right confidence to just stay in there. Fast forward to the championship round. We had that day canceled due to more
removed
rain
the day because of the cold. Yeah.
Right. And that was really scary to me because of how bad the water temp was going to drop. So in the knockout round, we were seeing temps, 54, something like that, and falling. But by the time Friday, when we hit the water, I dropped my trolling motor in the water. And once it finally settled out, I see temps as low as 42 degrees. And I knew, everyone asked, how do you feel? You won the knockout round. How do you feel? I told everybody the same thing. I said, I know where the fish are going to be. It's just going to be if it's too cold to make them bite or not. I said, I'm either going to not get a bite back there and finish 10th, or I'm going to contend for the win because I'm able to get those fish to bite. And I'd be lying if I said when I saw sub 45 degrees, my heart sank. I was like, I'm toast. There's, I thought I might be able to go out and jerk like the rest of the guys and catch a couple, but I didn't do that all week. There was no way I was going to contend for a win that way. And somehow, some way, those fish were just barely still warm enough to bite in there. It was about 5 minutes into the round. I threw by a key stump. I caught like a 3.5. Very next cast, catch a 6.2. And that 6.2 ate it just like I was talking about, just can't even see the bait. And if anybody watched it live, you could hear the excitement in my voice when I saw how that fish ate it. I was like, it's on, baby. I just kind of, I didn't know I was going to win, but I got really, really excited right then and there. I knew there was going to be a chance.
So obviously when you 54 on the way up is a great thing. Mm-hmm. 54 on the way down is not always the greatest, but
yeah.
What was the bait you started with? And it sounds like you made an adjustment from a flat side to a bigger, just square bill bait. So they were on it a little bit more aggressive action. What were the overall, the spinner bait and the different crankbaits that you used?
Yeah. So the spinner bait, I used a variety of them, but the big thing, I was throwing a 3/4 ounce or a 1 ounce, depending on the depth. And I was downsizing the blade, a Colorado blade, to a number 5. Usually 3/4 and 1 come with a number 6 on them. And it's just hard to keep the bait down and slow and really be able to control the bait with a blade that size. So on that one, I was downsizing, putting a swim bait trailer on the back of it, a little G-Crack Gyro Star, 3.8 inch swim bait, pretty standard. And then the flat side I was throwing was a Rapala. It was Ott's flat-sided crankbait. And I think the biggest thing with that, that kind of keyed me into the crankbait bite. Now, I definitely didn't get super dialed with that, but it just told me they would bite a crankbait. The reason I switched is I think, I'm fishing around stumps, nasty root systems and whatnot. I had to reel the bait too slow by these stumps, or else I was hung,
Gotcha.
and then I'm ruining the stumps and reeling the bait that slow. While I might be able to get one to nip it or knock it, it wasn't a fast enough reaction by. They were getting too good of a look at it to really commit to the bait, and that's why I switched to the square bill right then and there. I'm not sponsored by them, but they're actually a conflicting sponsor. But the square bill Jordan gave me was a square. It's called a square bull, and it was a red crawfish pattern, but it was actually a custom painted one he had done. It's funny, he opened his box and said, "Which one do you want to take?" I said, "Ooh, that one looks nice." And I could see in his face, that's one of my custom painted ones. And I was like, "Oh, no." He's like, "No, take it." So I ended up catching them all on that color, but it's a red crawfish pattern. I mean, it's a staple in Texas. I've been, this is something I've been told, but it's something I believe. In the wintertime, the only color you need in Texas is red. Something about it. They call it Rayburn red for a reason,
Yep.
It's a Texas staple, and I stuck to that this week.
Well, again, congratulations. That's a big deal. You come from a very, very successful fishing family. Your father's an amazing, amazing angler. Great family. Nice to see you put one of those trophies up there on a mantle at your house, but next to one of his. And it's really cool to see that. I know he was super proud of you.
Yeah, thanks. I to do it also when he was fishing in the championship round as well I couldn't ask for any more. It's literally like a movie. It was pretty cool.
I love the post that he said is, "I win either way. I win."
Don't let him fool you. Don't let him fool you.
I know he's trying to be.
Yeah, I know he was cheering for me. He was excited. He was even emotional when we saw each other at the ramp. But there's nothing that guy wants more than to beat me. So
I get it, and that's the way it should be.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
I know you're a family of faith, and I know that Christ says, win, but do it right. And he would have rubbed your nose in it if you won, but he loved you and he's proud of you. So
absolutely.
Yes, congratulations again. And thanks for spending the time with us, and good luck this week on Smith Lake.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, like you said, Dano, that was a good interview. Certainly one of the best interviews I think so far in terms of really kind of diving into the details and really telling his story from the tournament week. So it was fun to get to talk with him. So hopefully he's doing well this week as well.
Just to give a little wrap up, the bass fishing book is very, I've helped write some of that bass fishing book, the book on bass fishing, but common knowledge, cold water, flat sides, but he goes the other way. Wasn't getting quite what he needed to get and goes the other way, and the fish respond to it. And sometimes you can go conventional. Sometimes you need to keep an open mind and think outside the box. And Alton did that. So,
well, indeed. And again, some of that tackle that he discussed in there will all be linked up if you follow the link in our description and check some of it out. So I guess that's going to wrap it up as far as the tournament scene from this past week. So I guess what's left to really what's the latest on Fish Fest?
Vendors are connecting with us. We'll see a bunch of them here at the Classic. Talk to Lose and Strike King. They're going to be there. Daiwa's going to be there. We'll have Garmin and Humminbird there. And, of course, Minn Kota comes with that. We'll have somebody from American Bait Works will be there. Reaction Innovations is going to be there. I believe, John Cruz is going to be with us. So I also believe that Byron Childers, his national sales manager, is coming down with that table. Just really looking forward to a really good day. You guys can pick brains on product, of course, pick brains on the fishermen. Cliff Pace, John Cruz, Greg Vinson, Wes Logan, and Scott Canterbury are going to be there. And then, of course, the demo rides on Friday. Matt Herron's going to get involved in those. And, guys, there's a lot of really good boat drivers out there, but until you get with someone that does this for a living and they're on the water all the time, sometimes those guys make boats do things that you would not expect, and they get life out of things that you wouldn't think. So that's going to be an interesting day, and we're really looking forward to it.
And I know I've learned a lot from Matt and all of his experience in terms of practical ways to set up your boat. And I know he's always happy to share those tips and tricks on getting a good balance to get the best performance. And so he's got a lot of good insight because he's been doing it for a long time, and and quite honestly, just earned a living doing it. So that says enough for me. Yep. Well, we're going to have the kayak guys. Unfortunately, with all the rain flowing through, I think it's going to be a little skosh on water to get the boats on. But of course, that's once the things level out on Neely, that's always an easy thing for us. But we are going to have a few of the national level guys there to kind of talk about, actually that are fishing the Classic. At least one of them is fishing the Classic this week. So looking forward to having those discussions, talking through some of the world of kayak and how dramatically it's changing and growing. So looking forward to another good fish fest. Always looking forward to some good free food. So come check it out. If you want to head over, we've got a Facebook event. We'll be posting some more stuff as we get details on a timeline for the day, for the seminars. If that's all you've got time to pop in for, then I definitely plan on earlier, probably before lunch will be when we'll have the big name pros jump on, and then we'll have a few other seminars. But of course, guys are always willing to stand around and talk fishing and share tips. Yep. So we'd love to have you anytime on Saturday, 9 to 4, and hope to see you there. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode, guys. I am pretty excited about next week because I'm sure we're going to get some good insight from the Classic, and hopefully, Dano, you make it through, because I know you're going to be working your tail off for the next 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and we'll also get some information. Try to get an interview from the winner of the Bass Pro Tour. Of course, the Classic is the headliner this week. Anytime you have a Bassmaster Classic, that's the headline event. But we want to make sure that we cover those guys over there and let you guys know what they're doing, because they're at Smith Lake, and there's going to be some of our customers that want to, and friends that want to fish over there too. Well, maybe they don't want to fish over there, but they got to fish over there.
All right. Well, Dan, you be safe out there, and say hey to all of our guys fishing the Classic. And we can't wait to watch them on Bassmaster Live.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man.